Well, the idea and concept for the memorial came about from having a group of Indigenous and Torres Strait Islanders representing the services. I wanted anybody from any culture all around the world to be able to walk into ANZAC Square and immediately recognise what that was about. The development of the work starts with drawings, research. After the composition is finalised, maquettes are made or scale models. In this case, it was a digital sculpt or a mock-up of the composition, so that was 3D printed. The life-size sculptures start with anatomical studies, life models, measurements. Then build a steel armature, so it's basically like a steel skeleton, but with the various bone points and points of reference. The armatures are really important to get accurate. And also we designed these armatures to be adjustable, so the joints were movable, so if the body language wasn't quite right, you weren't stuck in that pose. Then after the steel armatures are fabricated and we're happy with that, we can start putting on the clay. So yeah, just one block of clay at a time. So here we are, ANZAC Day 2020. No dawn services this morning because of coronavirus, but some great stuff on the radio. All right, so another day of sculpting. So one of the more fun parts of the sculptural process was giving life and personality to each of the individual characters. Because they're not based on any specific individuals in history, we did that so it represented all Indigenous people. Developing the characters and the emotions of each person was quite a lot of fun. Going through a lot of archival reference and images, and then taking different parts of different people and then creating a single personality. And so when those expressions and emotions start to come back out of the clay, that's a really special time. Each person has a story to tell, and that even comes down to the look and style of their hair, of course, you know, like everybody. The clay really speaks to you in a lot of different ways, and it's so soft and malleable, but you can create distinct elements of each part of the sculpture. But in conjunction with that, there's the other side of the journey stone. So we provided John with scale models of the journey stone, so he could do a series of different and varying artworks on those models. So he could use his traditional methods of artwork to create the symbology. And then once that was completed, we took that journey stone drawing and then we digitally scanned that. Then we blew that up to the life size, and then we could manipulate the artwork to create a three-dimensional form. Each pen stroke of John's artwork is exactly reproduced on the large-scale journey stone. So the symbology and artwork is exactly how he drew it.
The journey stone comprises of a number of different contemporary elements or common creatives of design and symbols, because Indigenous art and design in general is made up of many different symbolism of representing flora and fauna or geographical location. Here in Australia, we all tell our narratives and stories in many different ways. The journey stone was representing the journey of the Indigenous men and women who went off to war, symbolises location for home, the journey paths and symbols, and that was my engagement in this case with the War Memorial, was to understand the elements of that, the narrative of that, and to portray that within the conceptual elements of the journey stone, which comprises of circular symbols and symbols that are representing the water, the earth, Mother Earth, sky, wind, and which is connected to the Air Force, Army and the Navy.
When you look at the history of Indigenous military for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, there's a history that's not been told. The military is like a family, and within that family we have a lot of history and we have a lot of stories, and this is just one story that hasn't been told that needs to be told.
What it means to me in the 3 R's, and it's not reading, writing and arithmetic, it's remembering, recognition and reconciliation. I think everyone should remember that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander men and women were engaged in all wars and conflicts that Australia has been involved in since the Boer War. Recognition, I think it's important to remember that Aboriginal men and women in the early years came back home to their country that they had fought for, and in some cases they did not return. And finally, reconciliation. Hopefully this memorial will become a stepping stone towards that goal that we're all looking for, reconciliation. And one thing I point out, there is no weapons in our memorial. It is not necessary to have weapons there, so we're not glorifying war. We're just there to make a statement that we were there when we were needed, and we'll always be there.
When you look at the rear of the memorial, you have an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander dancers. And then as you move forward, you have Navy, World War I, Air Force, World War II, a current female and a current male. So it talks about going from home and their journeys air, land and sea towards war. The soldier at the front, he's actually got scarring, which represents that he's been to war and he's now a warrior.
The guy has scarring across his chest. Now that's put on there because we're saying he is still an Aboriginal man. He still has his culture. He still knows who he is. Yeah, the scarring for me is really important because it really comes back to ceremonies, coming of age, becoming a man, and it'd be quite painful, as you can imagine. I say depending on how strong that person is in their will, the more scarring they would have, then you look at them and say, they're a pretty strong warrior, that guy. To handle that sort of pain, there's someone that you'd respect, for sure.
And the big thing for Harry was the scarring. The big thing for me was the durry. What we tried to do as a cultural committee was to create a durry that looked as simple as it could to represent all of the Torres Strait. But more importantly, we based it on a durry which was worn by the late Uncle Thomas Abasio, who was the first Torres Strait representative on this committee. So we made a decision as a committee to, in honour of Uncle Thomas and his family, to create a durry that is based on one of the ceremonial durries that he wore.
That's the only thing I miss, is that Uncle Thomas didn't get to see it.
I know he's watching, I know he's looking down, and he'd be very, very proud.
Getting the military history correct was a really important factor for the project. A lot of research went into making sure all of the details are correct in the different eras and theatres of war, and that's told through the uniforms. We've really got into a lot of detail to get right. We can see the World War II pilot's uniform is quite detailed, and even right down to making sure that the shoelaces were tied the right way.
Well, I suppose we wanted to be accurate for ourselves, so that, it wasn't just something put together and they, could turn up and whatever. No, we wanted it so that particularly veterans could readily identify from those times, but they'll look at it and say, yeah, I remember that. They got it right.
Once the clay is complete, which was quite a lengthy process, being 6 life-size figures, the mould making can start. So we're capturing all of the detail of the sculpture in this silicon rubber, so when it cures or into a rubber, it'll replicate every single detail perfectly. Then of course we need to stabilise that with the fiberglass jacket. That makes the whole thing stay in shape, and so when we cast out our wax, we know that we've got an exact copy. After the moulds are complete, then we strip off the silicon, rubber and fiberglass jackets, and then the clay, everything goes in the bin. So this is the first sculpture that we moulded, and as we can see, the clay dries really quickly. And this is another reason that we digitally scan everything, just in case there's any disasters or something goes terribly wrong. We've got a perfect digital copy that we can use as reference to remake or repair something that fails, you know. But it's kind of funny to see these after all these many months of work, see them sort of fall apart. But that's the way it goes. So after the moulds are made, we take them to the bronze foundry. Dean at Chalk Horse Art Foundry did all of the casting for this project, which has been fantastic. And he creates a wax model. So he'll cast individual sections of the sculptures in wax, prepare those, and then I'll go and finish the waxes and make sure that they're exactly how I want them, and sort of pick up any things that need sort of alterations or fix-ups. What's just basically called wax finishing. This is a pretty critical part of it, because this is the last opportunity you get to make the bronze casting as perfect as you can. So you've got to really pay attention and clean up as much as you can. Then those individual wax parts are coated in a ceramic paste or ceramic slurry.
So what we do is we dip it in this tank here, which is our slurry, and that would be the layer on the shell over the top. And then what we do is, then we put it in there. So this is zircon sand, just to add to the weight. But this is what gives us our detail, unbelievable detail.
For the bronze pour process, the ceramic coated individual body parts in wax are placed into a kiln. The kiln's heated to about 1200 degrees Celsius, and during that process the ceramic coating turns into a very hard and durable coating surface.
And then from there we burn the wax out, check for cracks, anything like that, wire it up, and then pour our bronze in. Honestly, you have no idea how you've gone in all this, but confidently I'd say we're 98% right. We haven't got any bronze line on the floor, so I'd consider it a good job.
For the bronzes to be assembled, each body part has to be welded together.
It's lined up beautifully. There's another 5 days in putting this on, and then we'll move up to the head, then put the arms on, then we put the legs on, so we've got a lot to do.
The bodies are then complete and in one piece, and then I can start finishing each bronze piece. So I'll spend quite a bit of time going over all the surfaces, either polishing or texturing or grinding, just getting each part of the bodies exactly how I want them. Once everything's completed and finished to the standard, it gets a final sand blast, and that prepares the surface for the patina colouring. The patina is chemical solutions that react with the bronze surface and give it a distinctive colour. And there's a large variety of colours you can get, which is, adds to the artistic process and really completes the sculpture to make it beautiful. Yeah, this is a really tense part of the process where if we don't get this right, we could potentially undo a fantastic project by overpowering it with too much colour. It's very important so that the viewer can see the work as it's intended. What I feel now when I look at the work is a lot of pride in the process, and also too I'm quite proud of the committee and everybody involved. It's been such a huge group effort. There's a lot of people that have been really passionate and stuck to the course and put so much time and effort into this memorial.
Griffith University, in my mind, has a natural fit with this project, and its history of involvement goes back close to 10 years, and it speaks very well to our values and our commitment to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander outcomes. It talks to our approach to reconciliation and to truth-telling, and there's so much about it that the public can learn from the project.
Every time I look at that memorial, it speaks to me in a way that I can connect with my cultural history and I can connect with my military history. And I don't think any words can explain how it gives you that feeling of, I suppose, completion, because we're actually telling the story for people to know. And what I'm hoping this memorial will do is allow people to come forward and tell their stories as well, because a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history is verbal. So, and they tell their stories through their families. So a lot of the soldiers that came back, they would have told their stories verbally that nobody still knows about.
Every time I see that warrior out the front, actually the whole thing just speaks to me. From the time I saw that, it just jumped out at me. And it just made me straight away think of my time in the army. In the armed forces, you are one big family. When it hits the fan, we're all working together. I love it, and I hope people see it and recognise it for what it is, for sure.
But you've got a man at the front who really encapsulates the ADF and a traditional Aboriginal person, but also looking forward towards peace, to freedom. And that's probably one of my most favourite, I suppose, parts of that whole sculpture, is the guy at the front facing towards the eternal flame, saying we want a future without any conflict. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
What a truly wonderful day it is to be here in what could be considered Queensland's Australian Defence Force's spiritual gathering place here in ANZAC Square. So I believe, in line with this year's National Reconciliation theme, be brave, make change. All who have supported this memorial have done that I respectfully ask that we remember and recognise those that came before us, the challenges they endured, and those who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can enjoy the freedoms that they never had, and for us to move forward towards a reconciled nation.
An important part of reconciliation is truth-telling. And the sad truth is that many Indigenous service people who risked their lives to save ours were never acknowledged for their service. Today in Queensland, that changes. This beautiful monument today recognises the bravery of so many Indigenous service people. Now we must live up to their example and have the courage to build a future worthy of their sacrifice. To all Indigenous service people and their families, thank you for your service. May we never forget their courage, their contributions and their sacrifice.
I've seen a lot of war memorials around the country and in other places. I've never seen one that is as powerful and meaningful as this. This square is all about remembrance, but the custodians of this square, given its heritage nature and its importance to our city and our state, decided that there would be only one further memorial put in this place, and that is the one that we see here today. This is the last, and I couldn't think of a better memorial to be the last in this sacred place than this one.
They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end, against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
And I'm so proud to be today. It's an overwhelming, emotional moment. So many people turned up, and proud to be First Nations. And I think the narrative will connect with many different people, I believe. That's how we created it. There's a very strong cultural, spiritual element to this memorial also. This is in the ground until the day that I leave this world, and most of us, and I think it's to inspire everyone. You know, inspire my family, inspire the community, and inspire other mob all over Australia. So that's where my heart is.
The statues actually stare at you, they look at you. This team, Lorraine and Harry and them, they've done a great job. I'm so proud of them. I'm emotional. I cried for a little bit, and I had family members that fought in the wars. You know, my grandmother was a nurse, and I had Uncle Len who went to Korea. You know, and they're all gone now, but they're here watching this.
We told ourselves this needs to be done. It's not told how that people went to Boer War, World War I, World War II, Korea, came back, nothing changed from it. Was never given a pension, was never given a piece of land. And you got to remember, when I served in 70, 71, we were still under the Act. And to this day, we're still not recognised as First Nation people in the Constitution. And this was something to show the Australian people and hopefully wake up the Australian government to have that conversation so that I wouldn't say it's the end, I think it's the beginning of a good thing.